Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're trying to untangle a really confusing economic picture. You see, the stock market is telling us everything's amazing, but a lot of us are feeling more anxious than ever. So, what's the real story here?
Okay, so let's get right to the heart of this puzzle. On one hand, you've got the S&P 500 blowing past 5,700 for the first time ever. That's a huge sign of market optimism. But at the exact same time, consumer confidence has absolutely cratered to its lowest point in 12 years. That's even lower than during the worst of the pandemic. How can both of these things be happening at once?
And the plot really thickens with this number. Even with stocks soaring to new heights, investors are also rushing to play it safe. The price of gold just rocketed past $5,500 an ounce, another historic first. Now, that's a classic move people make when they're worried, not when they're feeling confident about the future.
And it's not just gold either. We're seeing the exact same thing in the currency markets. With all the international tension in the air, people are flocking to the Swiss franc, another traditional safe haven, pushing it to its strongest point against the dollar in over a decade. So this isn't just something happening in the US, right? This is a global sign that people are getting nervous. So what's behind all this anxiety? Well, the first clues are bubbling up in the global markets, where there's a ton of turbulence right beneath the surface.
Man, this slide really shows you just how connected everything is. There's serious talk about the US and Japan teaming up to prop up the weak yen, and that alone is sending ripples through the US bond market. At the same time, our own dollar has hit a 4-year low, and over in Asia, currencies like the Indonesian rupiah are getting hammered. It's like a global chain reaction where one problem just triggers another. And this instability is hitting developing nations especially hard. Take Indonesia. Its stock market just had its worst 2-day drop since the 1998 financial crisis. The big fear is that it could get downgraded from an emerging market to a frontier market, which is basically a much riskier label for investors. Think less stability, more questions.
And then, back here in the US, you've got this total disconnect at the very top. The Federal Reserve just came out and said the economy is strong and decided not to change interest rates. But then you have President Trump publicly calling them out, saying they need to be cutting rates. This kind of public disagreement between the White House and the central bank, well, it just adds more fuel to the fire of uncertainty.
So with all this confusion and these mixed signals in the economy, there's one thing that big companies seem to agree on completely. They are all making this huge, unified bet on one single technology, artificial intelligence.
Just look at Tesla. They're making a pretty radical pivot. Reports say they're ending production of their famous Model S and Model X cars. So what's the new plan? Go all in on making robots and dump $2 billion into Elon Musk's other venture, xAI. It's a crystal clear signal that they see their entire future in AI and automation.
And it's not just Tesla, not by a long shot. Meta, Facebook's parent company, just had record revenues and then announced it's going to double its spending on AI this year. And you know what? Investors loved it. They absolutely rewarded the move, which just shows you how incredibly bullish Wall Street is on anything AI-related right now.
And this number right here, this really tells the story. This is the stock performance for a company called ASML. They're the ones who make the super specialized equipment you need to build the most advanced AI chips. And because they're so critical to this whole AI boom, their stock is up over 30% just this year. That's a massive bet from investors on the future of AI.
Okay, but this mad dash into AI and automation, it's not all stock market highs and exciting tech. There is another side to this story, a very real human cost.
Amazon just announced it's cutting another 16,000 jobs. That's on top of the big layoffs from last year. We're talking about a massive number of people whose roles are just being eliminated.
And look, Amazon isn't trying to hide the reason why. They're being incredibly direct about it. This is a quote from them, saying that as they adopt more AI, many routine positions will be shed. It's a stark look at the immediate real-world impact of this big shift to automation.
This whole AI-first strategy is even changing what their stores look like on the street. Amazon is shutting down all of its Amazon Fresh stores and its cashierless Amazon Go stores. It's a huge step back from that whole futuristic retail experiment they were pushing just a few years ago.
So while this AI revolution is completely reshaping things down here on Earth, one of its biggest champions, Elon Musk, is already looking up, way up, to a completely new frontier, space.
So get this. There are reports that SpaceX is planning an IPO for this June, and the numbers are just mind-blowing. The potential value could be as high as $50 billion. To give you some perspective, the old record was $29 billion from Saudi Aramco. This would absolutely shatter that record, making it the biggest IPO in history, and not just by a little bit, but by a huge margin.
Which kind of leaves us with this big, fascinating question, doesn't it? As we're all down here grappling with this weird economy, this gap between the markets and how people feel, and the massive disruption that AI is causing, are the very people driving this change already thinking about our next great leap? A leap that might not even be on Earth at all?